My name's Evan Miller, and if I've learned anything in 28 years, it's that sometimes love isn't something you get. It's something you carry. And I live in a small town called Ashford, somewhere between the highways of Oregon and the ocean. It's one of those towns where everyone knows who your parents are, where the coffee shop owner still remembers what you liked in high school. It's the kind of place that looks peaceful from the outside, but if you stay long enough, you start to see the cracks, the quiet loneliness tucked behind the soft hills and the rain-soaked streets. And that's where I met Lena Carter. She came into my life on a Tuesday morning, carrying the kind of smile that could make strangers forget where they were going. I was working my usual shift at Willow's Cafe, a small corner coffee shop I'd been managing since college. She walked in drenched from the rain, holding a leather notebook and wearing a green sweater that looked 2 sizes too big. "Rough morning?" I asked, handing her a towel from behind the counter. She smiled, breathless, brushing water off her face. "Depends. Do you believe in signs?" I chuckled. "Only when they point to the bathroom." She laughed, really laughed, the kind that makes you feel like you've said something much funnier than you actually did. That was the start. She started coming in every morning, always ordering a black coffee, always sitting by the window. Sometimes she'd write for hours in that notebook. Sometimes she'd just stare outside, lost in thought. That it didn't take long before we started talking about books, music, bad weather, the way the town seemed stuck in time. I found myself timing my breaks to match her visits. I told myself it was coincidence, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. Lena was different. She wasn't like the people in Ashford who'd settled into their routines. She had this restless energy, like she was always halfway to somewhere else. One morning, I asked her what she was writing. "Letters," she said softly. "To people I'll probably never send them to." That line stayed with me. Weeks passed, and our friendship became the best part of my days. She'd ask me about my life, my failed attempts at writing songs, my little dreams I'd never said out loud. One night after closing, we sat outside the cafe, sharing a slice of leftover pie. The street was empty, and the world felt still. "Do you ever think about leaving?" she asked. "All the time," I said. "But I never do." "Why not?" "Because sometimes staying feels safer than starting over." She looked at me for a long time, her eyes soft and sad. "I used to think that too. I didn't know it then, but that night was the beginning of the end, the point where my heart started falling faster than it should have." Lena told me she was new to town, said she moved here to figure things out. She never explained what that meant. I never pushed. I just wanted her to keep showing up, and she did. Every day. Until one day, she didn't point. 3 days passed before she returned, her hair tied back, her eyes tired. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Where were you?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "I went to Portland. I needed to see someone." I tried not to ask who, but I think part of me already knew. It was a Saturday night when I saw him. Lena was sitting at the far corner of the cafe, talking to a tall guy in a leather jacket. They were laughing, the kind of laugh she used to share with me. I watched from the counter, pretending to clean a cup that was already spotless. When he left, she stayed behind, staring at the empty chair across from her. That I walked over. "You okay?" She nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah, just history." That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every conversation, every look, every almost touch that I'd turned into something more in my head. I realized I'd been building a story where I was the main character, when really, I was just background music. Still, I couldn't stop hoping. That a few days later, Lena came by after closing. She stood by the door, hesitant, like she wasn't sure if she should come in. "Hey," she said quietly. "Do you have a minute?" I nodded, wiping my hands on a towel. She sat down at her usual spot by the window, and I made her a cup of coffee, without even asking. I knew how she liked it by heart now. She took a deep breath. "I need to tell you something," she said. "His name's Ryan. We dated for 3 years. I thought moving here would help me get over him, but it didn't." I didn't say anything. I just listened, because that's what she needed. "He called me last week," she went on, her voice breaking a little. "He said he's sorry, said he's changed." I felt something heavy in my chest, the kind of ache you can't show. "What did you say?" I asked. She looked down. "I told him I needed time, but I think I already know what I'm going to do." And just like that, I felt the ground shift. That night, after she left, I locked up the cafe and sat alone in the dark for a long time. I thought about how many ways love could hurt, How it could feel beautiful one moment and unbearable the next, that I realized something too. I'd fallen for her quietly, completely, and without permission. The next week, I tried to act normal. I smiled, made her coffee, listened to her talk about Ryan like it didn't kill me a little more each time. She'd tell me stories about their road trips, about how he used to sing badly in the car, about the little things that made her love him once. Every word was a reminder of how far away I really was. One afternoon, she came in with a letter in her hand. Her fingers trembled as she slid it onto the table. "I'm going to see him this weekend," she said. "I just needed to tell someone who won't judge me." I nodded. "You deserve to be happy, Lena." It took everything in me to say it. She reached across the table, touched my hand. "You're a good person, Evan." That touch burned. Not in a painful way. In a way that made me want to freeze time. After she left, I sat there staring at the chair she'd been sitting in, and I knew that love, real love, sometimes meant wanting something for someone else, even when it breaks you. She didn't come back on Monday, or Tuesday, or Wednesday that I tried not to notice. But every morning, my eyes went straight to her empty seat. By Friday, I told myself I'd stop waiting. Then, Saturday morning, she walked in, smiling. It wasn't forced this time. It was the real kind of smile, the one I'd fallen for months ago. "He came," she said softly. "Ryan came here. He drove all the way from Portland." I nodded, trying to steady my voice. "That's good, right?" "Yeah," she said. "We talked for hours. About everything." It felt like she hesitated. Like I finally remembered who I was. She looked happy, genuinely happy. And that should have made me happy too. But all I felt was silence inside me, like the world had gone dim. When she left, I told myself this was what love was supposed to look like, wanting her to find peace, even if it wasn't with me. But that night, I drove home and sat in my car for nearly an hour before going inside. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there and listened to the rain hitting the windshield, thinking about how quiet heartbreak really is. A few days later, Lena came by the cafe again. She looked brighter, like someone had finally turned the light back on inside her. She told me Ryan had asked her to move back to Portland with him. My heart sank, but I didn't flinch. I just nodded like a good friend would. "That's great," I said quietly. "You've always said you missed the city." She smiled, eyes full of something soft and grateful. "I don't know if I'm ready yet," she said. "But I think I want to try." She took a sip of her coffee, and I watched her, really watched her. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the way her eyes moved when she thought too hard, the tiny freckle near her left cheek that she always covered with makeup. And I realized something cruel. I was going to lose her, but I never really had her in the first place. That night, I wrote her a letter. It wasn't anything dramatic. Just the truth. "Lena, I don't know what to call what we have. Maybe it's friendship, maybe it's something quieter than that. But I just need you to know, you changed me. You made the world feel bigger. And if you ever look back and wonder if someone in this town was silently rooting for you, you were right. Evan, I never gave it to her." I folded it up and tucked it inside the drawer behind the counter, next to all the things people forget: scarves, keys, notes that never found their owners. The day she left, the sky was gray, the kind of gray that feels like it'll never clear. She came into the cafe early, carrying a suitcase and 2 cups of coffee. "One for the road," she said, handing me one. That I tried to smile. "Where's he picking you up?" "At the bus stop," she said. "Ryan doesn't know I'm coming yet. I want to surprise him." Of course she did. That was Lena, always leading with her heart. That we sat in silence for a few minutes. The shop was empty except for us. Then she stood up, hesitating for a second. "Thank you, Evan, for listening, for everything." I nodded. "Take care of yourself, Lena." She smiled, eyes glassy. "You too." She left. And that was it. No dramatic music, no goodbye kiss, no big revelation. Just the sound of the door closing and the smell of coffee in the air. Sometimes endings are quieter than you expect. Weeks turned into months. The cafe stayed the same. The same regulars, the same playlist humming through the speakers, the same creak in the floor by the counter. But every time I looked at the window seat, I saw her there. I started noticing small things. The way the morning light hit that corner, the faint outline of her handwriting on the table where she used to write. Once, I even thought I saw her walking past the cafe. My heart jumped, but it wasn't her. Just someone with the same green sweater. I kept working, kept smiling, kept pretending, but at night, I'd sometimes find myself rereading that letter I never gave her. The paper had creases now, worn at the edges from being unfolded too many times that I thought about sending it to her, just once. But I didn't, because sometimes the best thing you can give someone is peace. Even if it means staying silent. A year passed. One rainy afternoon, a woman walked into the cafe with a stroller. I looked up, half expecting it to be Lena. But it wasn't. Still, something about the moment, the rain, the light, the quiet hum of the espresso machine, made me think of her. After the woman left, I opened my drawer again and pulled out the old letter. I read it one last time, then walked outside. The rain had stopped, and the sky was slowly clearing. I stood by the trash bin for a long moment, then tore the letter in half, then in half again, until it was just fragments. The wind carried them down the street, scattering them like confetti, and for the first time, I didn't feel the ache anymore. I felt something else. Not happiness, exactly, but peace. I realized love doesn't always end in togetherness. Sometimes it ends in quiet understanding, the kind that lives in the spaces between what was said and what wasn't. Lena was somewhere out there, living her life. And I was still here, making coffee, remembering the way she looked at someone else, and learning to forgive the world for it.